The religious ceremonies from India are the oldest existing functional spiritual ceremonies in the world. Although the beginnings are shrouded in the mists of time, we can trace them back to approximately 8,000 BCE before we just lose track of them. They're almost always linked to a deity, casting a view of Hinduism as pantheistic. However, the idea of pantheism is really inaccurate in the spiritual context of the broad intellectual understanding of creation as put forth by those oldest scriptures. God, or truth, is infinite and unitary. Truth is one. Thus, the various gods and goddesses are explained in one of two ways. First, they are beings who may have realized the truth and embody some profound principle within that truth. In this context, they're really not much different from the saints of the Catholic Church or the ancestors of China. They also bear some resemblance to the Greek gods and goddesses with their ability to interact in human affairs. Or some people regard them as principles or aspects of divine power, which are anthropomorphized or personified for purposes of the understanding of and relating to the principles. Since most education was conducted through an oral tradition rather than by reading, the personifications into deities helped a largely illiterate population gain a more meaningful appreciation of the spiritual principles that they represented. Even today, among the erudite swamis and teachers of India, there can be heated disagreement concerning the final relative truth of members of the Hindu pantheon. Ultimately, the philosophic basis for the approach to these deities or principles is not important. What matters most is the depth and extent of the divine experiences such religious ceremonies invoke in those who attend. When the ceremonies start under the conduct of a properly trained priest, tongues fall silent and the eyes close, and one is possibly can have a profound inner experience. There's an old Indian proverb that says, "Some people like to count the leaves on the tree, but most of us would rather eat the fruit." What's the purpose behind these ceremonies? The answer is spiritual experience and inner communion are the goals of all of these ceremonies. The mechanics of puja, meaning ceremony, that help one to achieve spiritual growth, qualify among adepts as a true spiritual science, yet they can be practiced purely through devotion with no understanding of the spiritual mechanics involved at all, and achieve an equally profound inner result. We know, for instance, that gravity works according to laws that operate regardless of our understanding of those laws. The same is true spiritually. There are spiritual laws at work during these ceremonies that operate whether we know of them or not, whether we believe in them or not. It's not a question of belief, but of spiritual law, just as gravity is. Pujas and yajnas work according to and by the use of spiritual laws that, without going into great detail, suggest that there is a direct relationship between Sanskrit and the chakras. This relationship is used to construct, through mantra, spiritual attractors that invoke a certain kind of spiritual energy in a particular way. The object is to achieve a certain, very specific effect. Pujas and yajnas, or fire ceremonies, act as spiritual attractors with the strength of our devotion to a particular path, whatever it is, acting as a supercharger. So through the power of the sound and the power of our devotion, that profound inner experience can be achieved.